Hey guys, it's Graham. What's cracking? We're going to talk a little bit about a chapter in the Silmarillion. That's going to be the book discussion of today. But before we get into that, I wanted to give a shout out to the couple of new subs that I got that came over here from Andrew's channel from Legal Mindset. Started following him about 4 years back, probably, well, maybe 3.5, whatever. Around the time that the Rittenhouse trial happened, that was when I discovered LawTube at large, and I discovered that I've got an interest in legal analysis as entertainment, provided that the analysis side is informative and relevant. That's where I found, well, it was Ricada until he crashed out last year. Law of Self-Defense, Andrew Branca, a couple of other guys. Like the most consistently entertaining and informative one has been Andrew over at Legal Mindset. And I've super chatted him 2 or 3 times at this point. It's kind of like, I know that they get like ad revenue and whatever from streaming, but I feel it's like every once in a while, somebody's producing something that I find value in, I'll throw them a few bucks. And today I was listening to a stream where he was covering some of the Vitali news, and he mentioned that for hobbies, like he's really into reading, and he's been reading a lot more broadly, and he's always looking for book recommendations. And I was like, hey, so I sent him a quick super chat and plugged the channel, and he read the super chat. And it's like, if you're ever looking for recommendations, I read in a lot of different genres, and well, here we are. So a couple of people subscribed after that, so thank you for doing that. I hope you like what you find here. What's a normal day look like for me? Well, I'm a truck driver on the night shift, and I've got a very brief commute between work and home, and so I'll usually record my thoughts on whatever I was reading for the day, or I'll do a more in-depth review of something later on, throw a picture on it, and call it good. It is not my aspiration to become a full-time YouTuber. I just use YouTube to boost the signal for things that I read, that I have enjoyed, that have edified me, and sometimes those will cross over into other areas. I also talk a fair bit about movies and TV shows, and I'll be doing that with slightly more regularity, only in the sense that I enjoy really good stories. So today, why am I talking about the Silmarillion? Well, last year I did an in-depth reading of the Silmarillion. It's like the Old Testament for Lord of the Rings. It's the creation mythos for that entire world and for that particular portion of Tolkien's legendarium. And it's kind of an endurance test for the committed fans of the Lord of the Rings. The ones that get through it are the ones that really want to know how Middle-earth got to be the way that it is. There are a lot of myths and legends in it, individual stories. They're all connected and stacked on top of one another. But I'd say the one that has been the most impactful since I read it, and that really opened my eyes to certain phenomena going on in our culture, is a chapter about what's called the Kinslaying. I think this is chapter 8, but don't quote me on that. There's a character named Feanor who, we'll say that his actions probably have, outside of Melkor, probably have the most lasting repercussions throughout the history of Middle-earth. He was a fantastic craftsman, and he made these jewels called the Silmarils, and since so much of what happens in this story focuses on the theft and the loss of the Silmarils, it's called the Silmarillion. These are incredibly valuable jewels for reasons that I won't elaborate on too much here. They are unique. They cannot be remade. And Melkor, the forerunner to Sauron, and in fact Sauron's master, greatly coveted them. And at one point he stole them, and he fled Valinor, crossed the oceans, and went to Middle-earth to hold on to the Silmarils there. Feanor was so jealous and so angry that he whipped up all of his kin and got them angry and said, we're going to go take the Silmarils back. They were makers, but they were makers on land. And when they got to shore, they met their cousins, the Teleri, the sea elves, who were makers on the coast. The Teleri had boats. The Noldor did not. Feanor said, give us your boats. And they're like, no, these are prized possessions. Like, these are to us what the Silmarils are to you. And Feanor suddenly faced a choice. He could either stop and learn how to make ships and take the years that it would require, and these are elves, they're immortal, the time doesn't really matter to them. He could use the time necessary to build the ships to go chase after Melkor, because Melkor was also immortal and the Silmarils were eternal. They weren't going anywhere. The only fleeting thing was the anger that the Noldor felt for the loss of the Silmarils. And Feanor was concerned that if he stopped and slowed down to do something as tedious as building ships to cross the ocean, that the other Noldor would calm down and he would lose his army, he would lose his might. And so he instead kept his men all whipped up in their anger, his fellow elves, and they went and slew a whole bunch of the Teleri and stole their ships. This was called the Kinslaying. It was one of the first massively significant tragedies. And since it was the first Kinslaying, it was the first incidence of like elf on elf violence. Feanor was no longer a good boy who didn't do nothing. He definitely did something. That instance right there, the fact that he was afraid of losing his power just by having his elves calm down, and so he did something incredibly insane and violent and hateful and murderous to maintain his power over his, well, not say subjects, but the people who were following him. That came at a very peculiar time in my pop culture consumption. I was getting tired of certain channels that I was following on YouTube that offered pop culture commentary. And, it's not uncommon. Every couple of months I'll look at what I'm subscribed to and I'll unsub from a bunch of things. But I noticed that all of the pop culture channels were saying the same things about the same things on the same days at the same time. And I was wondering, what value is it to me to listen to 5 videos that say the same thing, that all have the same opinion, and that all get the same reaction from a core audience that is looking to be upset about something? This is primarily about Disney, and I've got my own issues with stuff that Disney has produced over the last several years, but the stuff that they've produced in the last year or so, some of it has been a righting of the ship, and some of what's to come is looking better. Like it looks like they've kind of corrected course from their worst indulgences over the last couple of years, and here we are. But most of the commentary from every angle from this cluster of affiliated YouTubers has all been the same. Disney sucks, Disney hates you, and just watch us instead. And these guys are full-timers on YouTube. And I realized that, in a sense, they were kind of in that Feanor position, and they were at risk of losing something that gave them power. And not coincidentally also gave them money through super chats and through ad revenue and stuff. And so it is in their interest to keep things at a level of personal emotional investment, regardless of whether the things they're covering are getting better or not. It's just they're going to cover it negatively no matter what. I was reminded of this last night when I was looking at something on X, and the thread brought me to an account that I stopped following. It's it's the Twitter account of one of these YouTube channels that I stopped following, who does Hollywood analysis and commentary through a financial lens. Just saying that, you might know who it is. I'm not going to say his name here. When his channel first started out, he was very professional, very detailed, very fact-oriented, but as he gained in popularity, he leaned a little bit less on that for the value of his content and more on the bombast and the all caps and the swear words and the hyperbole, to the point of misleading an audience that just wanted to hear somebody be as angry as they were about something. And it was that whole kinslaying principle. And I was like, I don't want to get whipped up by this. And since it's been 6 or 8 months since I unsubbed from that cluster of channels, I went back and I saw those tweets of just about him covering recent events, talking about the losses of the Snow White movie and how he thinks every Marvel movie this year is going to bomb. I was like, what benefit is this? Like, when I'm consuming legal entertainment, it's relevant because I'm learning more about the law, whether at home or abroad. and how it applies. And this is something that like actually governs my day to day, and it's worth learning about and thinking about. You can learn, practical law, theoretical law, or legal concepts, things that would be challenged in courts. Like, there's a philosophical bent to it that is valuable. But this pop culture news consumption, it's like, remember that episode of The Office where Jim comes back to the Scranton office and he talks to Kelly and he's like, "What's going on in your life?" And she talks about like a bunch of celebrity tabloid nonsense, and he goes, "No, but what's going on in your life?" She's like, "Oh, I just told you." Like, all she cares about is stuff that's happening to celebrities who have no idea who she is. Like, it's completely irrelevant. It's a look behind the curtain at dumb things that don't have any impact on me. What do I care if Snow White lost $300 million? That was Disney's fault, and presumably they've got to answer to somebody. I've got my own bills to pay. Like, it's just dumb. And people who want to whip you up into that state of anger, they're doing what Feanor did, and he ultimately led scores of his kin to kill their cousins. That kind of anger is contrary to your rational mind. And even more to the point, it's you putting somebody else at the helm of your own life. How do you want to spend your time and your energy? What do you want to devote yourself to? Do you really want somebody else saying XYZ? There's a buzzword, the MK Ultra stuff is kicking in, and I'm going to go be butthurt about this because so and so said so, and he throw him $5 in a super chat. No, I'll throw a super chat at Legal Mindset because he's explaining something from the law and he's being entertaining and professional about it, and also being factual. There is value in that. Again, I don't want to become a full-time YouTuber. What do I want to spend my energies on? Well, I've got a job, I got a career, I got a family, and I myself am a creator and an artist. I write novels. Sometimes I illustrate them if I feel the project merits it or would greatly be enhanced by it. I would rather spend my time doing those things. I want to write more, I want to draw more, I want to publish more. If I was going to be beholden for my time and my energies to a particular trade, I would rather it be the creation of things than the analysis and destruction and malignment of other things. I'd rather build than tear down, and I know that I have the skills to build. Guys that spend all of their energy and make all their living tearing down, well, those who can't do, hum. But anyway, in summary, I really need to get those 5-minute Silmarillion posts that I did on Substack turned into videos here. I don't summarize the entire Silmarillion in 5 minutes, but I do each chapter in about 5 minutes. I need to turn them into videos here just so that I can put something of benefit out into the world as far as that book goes. But there are a lot of great spiritual lessons in it. It's not just lore for the sake of imagination and entertainment. Like, this is a deeply spiritual work, and even if you don't consider yourself to be a spiritual or religious person, there's a lot of benefit from the lessons and the mythos therein. But we'll get into that when I finally get around to making those videos. Anyway, hope you found some value in this, and until next time, drive safe. See you out there.